I didn't think there'd be vampires on campus.
We must have been at about 40,000 feet when it happened.
What was that?
You are the Slayer. One girl in all the world.
Did anybody see that?
Yeah.
Guess what? I feel better.
Guys, where are we?
Hi, Patrick. How are you?
Hi, Sammy. I'm great. How are you?
Good.
Good.
What's new in your life? You're remodeling your bathroom?
I am remodeling my bathroom, and I don't want to bore our listeners with the story, but it's...
Or me.
Or you. It's exactly what you would think remodeling a bathroom from the 1960s would be.
Ooh.
You think it's going to be surface level easy, and then you get into it, and it's not so much. In fact, there's a lot of damage behind the walls and a lot of things that were done funky,
wow.
so I'm replacing all sorts of stuff. So there you go. You got the story anyways.
You're doing it all yourself, or you're hiring someone?
Doing it all myself. I'm doing a
Wow.
lot of research. Yeah, I got
That's
some
impressive.
books. Got some books from the library. I'm reading about drywall, reading about plumbing, reading about wiring. I'm doing everything, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm figuring out. How are you? What's up? I see this beach shirt you got on. What's that all about?
So today I did a beach cleanup. My friend Rachel, who owns a shop in downtown Middletown called Cinder and Salt. It's an eco-friendly screen printing and clothing company. She's really awesome. She's super environmentalist. She hosts beach cleanups, and people you just volunteer. She has like a little booth set up. She gives you a free shirt, a coupon for her store. So yeah, I think I picked up like around like 2 pounds maybe of trash.
Jeez.
For within like 2 hours. So
Wow.
yeah,
Nice.
pretty
Cool.
crazy.
Cleaning up the beaches.
Cleaning up the beaches.
Cleaning up the basements. Basements and beaches are getting cleaned by us.
What are you cleaning your basement?
Well, that's where my bathroom is, where I'm remodeling.
Oh,
so I'm
okay.
cleaning it.
I
I
didn't
was just
know
trying
that.
to pair them together.
Gotcha. I like it.
Yeah. So welcome everybody to Kicking and Streaming.
Yes. Oh, right. Yeah. This is a podcast.
Yeah, this is a podcast. This is episode 1. What are we doing talking about basements and beaches? Nobody's going to listen. They're here for Lost. They're here for Buffy, and they don't want to hear about our stuff.
This is what works in My Favorite Murder. They've got a whole preamble.
Right.
It's fine.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll follow that model. I guess
Yeah.
it works.
I love
Okay.
it.
Cool. So welcome to the show. This is the show where we talk about both shows, Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Lost. This is episode 1. We will be talking about the pilot episode for each show.
Mm-hmm.
Which one are we going to talk about first, Sammy?
I would say Buffy. I like things alphabetically.
Okay.
Just
I'm
makes
into
sense.
it. Yeah.
I worked at Borders, so I like to do alphabetical
You like to alphabetize
Yeah.
everything? Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
worked at a movie gallery, which was a Blockbuster alternative. So I was
We had
also
Video One.
never heard of it. They were too
probably just
too
privately
low in
owned.
the totem pole of corporate video stores.
Yeah, I
never
think
heard
it was
of it.
just its own thing.
Oh, privately owned?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's legit then. I respect that.
Yeah.
I tip my cap at private
To
video
Video
stores. Yeah, to Video One, of which I never stepped foot in.
And it's
but-
no longer there.
But I still respect, of
Yeah.
course. So,
So you're used to alphabetizing.
Yeah, I'm also a master alphabetizer. I alphabetize my giant Blu-ray wall just the other day.
Yeah.
Or re-alphabetize. I always check and double check because the kids will get a hold of the copies of movies and they'll flip them around and change them up. So I
Wait
gotta
till
go in
they
there.
work for a bookstore or video store.
Yeah,
Aw.
that's totally gonna happen.
Womp
Not
womp.
womp womp. Not never gonna happen. Sorry, but maybe. I mean,
Maybe.
I keep like holding out hope that there's gonna be like a renaissance of. I mean, I feel like books have a renaissance that's happening right now.
Books
I feel like
are
everybody's
not
into
gonna
books.
die. Listen,
They're never gonna die.
Everybody, I'm never gonna have a Kindle. Like I have an iPad, but I don't
Yeah.
read. But I need to hold the book. If it's a book I love, like I will go through. I will highlight it. There will be markings in the page. Like
Right.
nothing is ever gonna replace that for me.
Yeah, and same thing with me and DVDs and Blu-rays and now 4K discs and before that was VHS. It's a very vicious cycle, this physical media game.
Yeah.
For movies, but I'm addicted and I love it, and it's one of my big joys in life.
Well, I think on this note, at the end of this episode, and maybe this just can be a segment, we talk about other things that we are reading, watching, and listening to. Just other media we're consuming.
I'm into
because we're going to be talking so much about these two shows, but like we're, you and I are in a movie club, so we're constantly watching different movies every week. We're just constant. That's not a right word. We're constantly consuming. I was trying to combine those two words. Yeah. Media. And so I think it would be fun to just talk about what else we're
we can catch up a little bit at the end of the episode for sure. But first, let's get into Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Episode 1, Welcome to Hellmouth.
The Hellmouth.
The Hellmouth? I thought it was just Welcome
to the Hellmouth.
Are you sure it's the?
Yeah, I'm sure. Come on.
I know you're... Okay. All right, I'll take your word for it. I thought I have it written down on my notes as "Welcome to Hellmouth."
Yeah, I guess there's a the in there.
Hellmouth. Okay, well.
So let's just give a brief recap. If you haven't listened to the intro episode, definitely give that a listen. Gives a little bit more context to the show. But basically, Patrick and I we're constantly telling each other about shows or movies each other should watch. And we decided that this would be a really good time to make each other watch the shows that we love and the other person would hate or has never seen. So that's the concept behind kicking and streaming. So my favorite show all time is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it's pretty hard to get people who are not into it. So
this show is number 1 for you of all time?
Oh yes.
This goes 100%. Over Avatar: The Last Airbender for you.
Yes. Avatar is a close second, but I grew up watching Buffy. I didn't watch Avatar when it was on initially, so this is just the best. If I was stuck on a deserted island, like maybe in one of the other shows we're watching, and I could only watch one show for the rest of my life, I would choose Buffy over Avatar.
Right. Okay.
So that's the deal. And your show that you're making me watch is Lost, which I had zero interest in and thought that it was kind of like Survivor. But
I can't wait to hear your take on this after seeing the pilot.
So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Let's jump into it. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Season 1, Episode 1, Welcome to the Hellmouth. The original air date was March 10th, 1997.
Wow.
Yeah, so 23 years ago.
Jeez.
It's written by... So the series is created by Joss Whedon. This episode was written by Joss Whedon and was directed by Charles Martin Smith. This was the only episode he directed, and also Joss Whedon. So I can't tell you how giddy I am to be rewatching Buffy. Like, this week when I went to watch it, I was just like so pumped. Like I have so much energy running through me because it's just like, it's just something like I love, and I love being able to share it with someone else. So like I said in the intro, I usually end up rewatching Buffy like every 1.5, 2 years or so.
Wow.
Yeah, I love the show. I mean, I don't always watch it like from beginning to end. Sometimes I just pick, like start kind of halfway through one season and then keep watching from there. But, I haven't rewatched it since our last trial recording of this podcast.
Right.
We tried recording this, or we tried starting this podcast like this is our third time.
Yeah.
And this time it's going to stick. So
it's a charm.
Yeah. So I haven't watched it since then because I just kept waiting for us to revive this. And so this show, like I was saying, is really fundamental to my being. I mean, I was watching this in my formative middle and high school years. So if you hate it, Patrick, I don't know.
This is going to be a rough go if I hate the show. It's going to be a rough go for
I hope it doesn't
us.
end our friendship.
Yeah.
I think we're stronger than that. I mean,
it'll make good podcasting at least, maybe.
Yeah. I mean,
if people like hearing us bicker,
yeah,
maybe they'll hate that too, and then we'll have zero.
They
zero
might.
listeners.
I mean, and I, obviously, like, I love Dave, and it's like this. I made him watch it early on in our relationship, you know, where
You
he
made
was,
him
where we were
watch it?
still at that. Well, you know, we're still at that phase where he's like, "Oh, I want to be into all the things that you're into," and you know, whatever. If I tried to make him watch it now, he'd be like, "Ugh."
Is that your litmus test to find out if somebody's worthy of your company?
I don't know. I just feel like it's such a big part of me. Like, you've got to know. You've got to
gotta
at
know.
least try
Yeah.
watching it. I feel it's like the same thing about Harry Potter. And
Yeah.
Dave read all of the Harry Potter books and / listened to them on audiobook.
You know, it's funny because as I watched this first episode, I did see a lot of things happening. Like some of the quirks that some of the characters have. I'm like, I could see pieces of this in Sami. Just like just
so
slivers of personality that were chiseled out of this show and just sort of dropped into your DNA somehow.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, again, I'm watching this when, like, I'm learning who I am, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm forming an identity, and
Right.
and like, for sure, I credit so much of my sense of humor to this show. Like,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, just amazing writing, super witty.
Is that how you?
I don't think I have. No, I'm not saying I have amazing
That's what-
writing, and I'm
you're
super
like,
witty.
it's
But the
exactly
writing
my personality.
is amazing and super witty, and
that's funny.
I feel like I've become wittier and funnier
Yeah.
because of that.
I gotcha.
Jerk. But I will tell you, every time I rewatch it,
Yeah.
I like get this idea that I can be just as good a fighter as Buffy. And so
You
I
get
start
this
doing
idea.
karate all over the house. Like, I can't. I've never taken any kind of fighting, self-defense classes, karate, anything like that. But
Yeah.
so it's really funny. Like, every once in a while, I'll just like, you know, be around Dave and I'll be like, roundhouse kick, and I don't know what a roundhouse kick is. I just swing my leg around.
Yeah, there you
and
go.
I think it's
Nailed it.
a roundhouse kick.
Yeah.
And so he always is like, "Oh, great, she's watching Buffy again." So when I watched this 2 days ago, I was like, you know, I literally had to do my workout app for the day right before I started watching the show because I had so much energy going and like excitement going
Oh, wow.
into it.
You are
and then I
pumped
was like,
up for this show.
I was like fake fighting, like kind of like how Cam, your son, is like, you know, practicing airbending after watching Avatar.
Yeah.
I'm like doing that, and Appa's just kind of, my dog is looking at me like, whoa, boy, I'm a little concerned about her.
He's like,
So-
here we go again. Every
Yeah.
2 years, this happens.
I actually don't think we had him the last time I watched the show. So
How long have you had that little creature of yours? I feel like
yeah, I mean, it was I guess
I-
it was 2 years ago
Yeah.
that we adopted him.
I mean, who
So
knows?
maybe
It could have
was
been right
probably
before.
when we watched the first episode, and then but before that, I like probably hadn't seen Buffy in like a year or so. So
Okay.
anyway,
So do you want to talk about like the plot of the episode first, or do you want me to?
Let's, if you're cool with it, I want to kind of talk about the history
Ooh, yeah.
behind it, and then we'll talk about plot, and then we'll get into the episode.
Okay. Boy, we got a
So-
lot on our plates for this
Got a lot
episode.
to cover.
We got a lot
Well,
of groundwork.
There's also just a lot that has happened and
Yeah.
is happening with Buffy, so I just feel like we would be remiss to not talk about any of that. So
Right.
So let me give you some context, some Buffy history. So again, this show aired 97.
Yep.
And at the time, us ladies, like, you know, we didn't really have very many badass female superheroes to
Right.
look up to, or super strong, like, leading women in general on television in the 80s and 90s. And this was something that, you know, in the late 80s, Joss Whedon, this was something he picked up on. He said, "I had seen a lot of horror movies, which I love very much, with blonde girls getting killed in dark alleys, and I just germinated this idea about how much I would like to see a blonde girl go into a dark alley, get attacked by a monster, and then kill it."
Yeah.
So this
and do a
was
flip, like a gymnast flip at the same time.
right, or a roundhouse kick,
Right.
several roundhouse kicks. So this was like, he had this thought and idea, again, like mid to late 80s.
Right.
So this was before Xena Warrior Princess, which Buffy has been compared to a lot. And I will be honest, I haven't seen it, but I probably should.
That was one of those shows that was always on if I was sick from school or just as I was
Yeah.
getting home from school. Xena
Yeah.
Warrior Princess was always on, and it was never caught my interest.
Yeah. I probably would be into it. I just, for whatever reason, never kind of gave it a shot. But Anyway, so Joss Whedon created this character named Buffy, and she's a blonde cheerleader who also happened to be a vampire slayer.
Oh, she's a cheerleader? I didn't know that. It's spoiler.
Well, it's in the movie.
Oh, I didn't see the movie. Should I have watched the movie before this show?
Well, we're going to talk about that.
Oh, okay.
And so, no, it's not canon.
Okay.
But anyway, so she was actually the vampire slayer, the only one. So he cast Kirsty Swanson as Buffy in the 1992 movie, which flopped. Like, it was bad. Like, legendarily bad.
That's so long before this show started. That's a
5
5-year stint.
Yes.
That's so strange.
Yeah, I mean, so he basically he pretty much like walked away and was like, well, this was an idea that I had, and this was the this is what happened.
Joss
and
Whedon.
It sucked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he could have walked away from it, but he didn't, which I'll get into. So anyway, the movie, really bad, but it had a very good actor list. Like Donald Sutherland is in it, Paul Rubens. Best death scene ever. So I highly recommend watching the movie, like, just for his death scene. It's just...
I remember you showing me the death scene when we worked together. Yeah, you're like, you have to see the death scene, and we watched it, and it was funny.
Beautiful.
It was funny.
It's just so good. And you've got Luke Perry in it, David Arquette, Hilary Swank, which was her first film role ever.
Yeah.
And even Ben Affleck was in it.
Yeah, young Affleck.
Yeah, really good cast.
I'm going to have to see this. But you say I don't need to see this for the show. But if I saw it, does it should add something, I would think. No?
I mean, maybe. But you really don't have to. It's not canon. There are some things that are different, which, again, I'm going to talk about a little bit. But yeah. I mean, it is just, it's kind of a fun watch, honestly.
Yeah. Can I ask this one question, though?
Sure.
Because I had this question when I watched it, was she talks a lot about her last school and things like the gymnasium burned down and things like this were all due to her and her vampire fighting or whatever. Right. Does that reference the movie?
No.
Okay.
I mean, a little bit, but like she doesn't actually burn down the gym in the movie. That doesn't happen.
Okay. So that's just separate to the show. That's something that happened in the show's storyline that was sort of previous to this, but we never saw it in a movie or anything.
Yeah, so Joss like essentially walked away from the movie and completely revamped the story for the show. Come on, nothing? Revamped?
I get it. No, it took me a minute. I get it. That's
Thank
funny.
you. You're welcome. So the movie, not meant to be canon. Some differences between the movie and the show are, so Buffy in the movie is a senior. In the show, she starts off as a sophomore. She's transferring schools and she's a sophomore.
Yep.
Principal Flutie in the show, yes, remarks that she burned down the gym.
Yep.
That doesn't actually happen in the movie. And her mom in the movie is like a complete airhead. But Joyce Summers in the show is amazing. I love her and I love their relationship, and I'll get into that a little bit too. Also in the movie, this is like so stupid. Buffy gets cramps anytime a vampire is around. Like,
okay.
Cramps.
Okay.
Dave, actually, when we watched the movie however long ago, I feel like we probably watched it around the time like I had him watching the show.
Did Dave get cramps watching the show?
No. I think
I didn't know where you were going with the story. I tried to jump to the end.
Dave actually coined this having cramps when a vampire is near VMS instead of PMS. It's Vampire Monitoring System. It's like,
well done.
Oh boy, I thought you would enjoy that.
It's pretty good.
So anyway, Joss was not happy with the movie. So a few years later, he tried again and turned it into a show. And there's conflicting stories as to whether WB approached Joss Whedon about this or if the movie rights holders started the process. But either way, in 1996, Joss Whedon directed an unaired pilot, which never intended to air. It was really just to pitch the show. It's pretty close to what did ultimately air storyline wise, although it's only like 25 and a half minutes long. So, it's not the full like episode that we end up seeing.
Yeah.
But there are some scene and actor changes. So Anthony Stewart Head is Giles, and he was the first person that they actually cast. So he is Giles in the pilot as well. Sarah Michelle Gellar was in it as Buffy, but she was like really breathy and ditzy and just really annoying. Like, she's definitely a stronger person, I think, in the actual TV show.
So, okay. Keep going, but we'll get more into that. Because I have my thoughts about Buffy so far. I mean, I'm only one episode in, so I can't pass too much judgment. But
let's talk about that. Let me just
okay. All right.
just want to get you up to speed with the history. Nicholas Brendan was Xander, so that's who is Xander in the show. Charisma Carpenter was Cordelia, so that stayed the same. But Willow was played by Riff Reagan, who we've never seen again. Okay. There was no Jessie, no Angel, no Buffy's mom, and it was so melodramatic. Like, there's a scene in it where Buffy is like sad in a classroom, and there's like sad flute music playing, and it's just like really over the top melodramatic. So I'm glad they took that out. I don't know if like that was Joss trying to be melodramatic and silly, but it didn't work. So
yeah, I mean, he might have grown more as a filmmaker too in those 2 years. You know, he could have made that first pilot and then like seen all of the errors that he had done in the past 2 years, so that when he actually went to remake the pilot, he rectified all of that. Maybe he got a lot of great edit notes in those 2 years from everybody who he talked to about the pilot that really didn't go anywhere, and then he got to redo it. I mean, that's kind of a dream. Well, it
probably wasn't 2 years, though, because the pilot was in 96, and the show aired in 97. So it probably, I would assume, it happened pretty soon after.
So why did they shoot 2 pilots then? Why did they shoot one and then it went nowhere?
Well, this one, I think, again, like, he shot this one to just sell it in. Like, if you watch it, some of the scenes or like the sets like were completely like not fully built out. Like there was like rafters everywhere, and so
this was more of like a sizzle reel or something, almost like it was a mock episode for them to sell to the studios and be like, hey, look, this is the idea, this is what we're going for. It's not fully done yet, but if you give us the money, we'll redo it.
Yes,
something like that.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah, I think it was just like to sell this idea of like, here's this blonde girl who is like, you know, a badass. She's moving to a new school. She's dealing with all of that. Like, so it was definitely never intended to be the first episode. It was just So, like I said, it's only 25 and a half minutes long, so there's also no bigger storyline with Luke and the Master that we see in the first episode. Yeah. But there is a really great scene in it that I love that doesn't make it to the first episode, the actual pilot, where Buffy says to a vampire, you know, you really shouldn't be here. A vampire all alone at night, it really isn't safe, which I just love. Because, again, it's like he's taking that idea of, like, you know, the
right, he's flipping the roles.
Yeah,
role
exactly.
reversal.
Like the little blonde girl, like, afraid in the dark, and he's flipping it. And so I just love that line.
She's the one to be feared, not the vampires.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So that is the little bit about the pilot, and then just some fun trivia about the auditions. So some of the actors who auditioned for Buffy were Selma Blair, Katie Holmes, Julie Benz. Julie Benz ends up playing Darla in this, the blonde vampire.
Yep.
Elizabeth Ann Allen, who comes back as another character. Charisma Carpenter, who is Cordelia. And actually, Sarah Michelle Gellar auditioned to play Cordelia. And the woman who ends up playing Cordelia auditioned for Buffy, so the roles were just switched. And Mercedes McNabb, who also comes back as a different character, but we don't see her in the first episode. Xander, Ryan Reynolds actually auditioned to play Xander, but he ultimately passed on the role because he didn't want to play a guy in high school. I think he was quoted as saying something like, I just finished high school and it was like awful for me. I just don't want to be that guy again.
Interesting.
A character we haven't met yet, Spike, was Nathan Fillion auditioned for him, and as we know, Joss and Nathan Fillion have a great relationship, and he ends up, being on Firefly. So
Oh, right. Firefly.
we don't lose Nathan Fillion.
Right.
And that's a pretty normal thing for Joss Whedon to do. He carries his actors, Nathan Fillion, of course, also did the Dr. Horrible sing-along blog.
You've seen all of Firefly and everything attached to it. You love that as well?
I do. And it's funny because you know how much I don't like space stuff.
Right. You hate space stuff.
Or westerns, and this is a space western. And so I put off watching
sounds
it.
right up my alley.
I've
never seen it. I've never seen it.
Oh, you would love it. You feel like you'd probably like it more than Buffy. Almost definitely. So I put off watching Firefly forever because I was like, space and western, no thanks.
Yeah.
But I think like a guy I was dating at the time, like his roommate was like, you have to see it. It's Joss Whedon. Like, you're going to love it. And he made me watch the first episode, and I was like, oh, damn, this is good. And it kind of reminds me of Cowboy Bebop, which is also a space western anime.
Yeah.
Which I
I've
love.
seen pieces. I've seen pieces of that. I can't get into anime, but I do. I'm aware of that show.
Yeah. So then I think you would really like Firefly. I'll recommend that for you.
All right.
And
I'll put it on my list.
It's not very long. It was canceled, and then a movie was made about it, and the movie is amazing and closes
Serenity,
it up. Serenity.
Right?
Yeah. The movie closes it up really nicely. So, yeah, you should watch it and get back to me on that.
Okay, I will.
But anyway,
I'll report back.
As for Willow, Joss Whedon said, I was determined that we wouldn't have the supermodel in horn rims that you usually see on a TV show, representing like the nerdy girl, when it's like, she's really not nerdy. Come on. He said, I wanted somebody who really had their own shy quirkiness. So, I mean, Allison Hannigan is like perfect.
She got it dialed in.
Yeah. And then as for Angel, David Boreanaz, who plays Angel, lived on the same street as the casting director's friend and was like walking his dog when basically they stopped him and was like, hey, you should come audition for this guy because we think you'd be perfect.
I don't think they ever say his character name in the first episode.
I think you're right about that.
Because I think she just talks about him being like gorgeous.
I really didn't like him. I don't know. I really didn't like him. That's what she said. But obviously she's like into him.
Right.
Yeah.
Because she said he was gorgeous and tall, right? Tall, gorgeous, something.
In a annoying sort of way or something, I think she said.
Something like that.
Yeah. So and then just one more thing.
Dark, gorgeous, and an annoying guy. That's what she said.
Yes.
Yeah. I wrote it down. I just had to find it in my notes.
Was that? Well, we'll get into that if that's your favorite part. But
I don't know if it's my favorite part. I don't know what my favorite part is this episode is. Actually, no, I know what it is, but let's keep going. Okay.
Yeah, so then just one more thing about before getting into the episode. Again, like I said, there's just a lot that has happened with Buffy and is happening, so I just feel like we should cover it all.
Yeah.
So it is in the process of getting a reboot. I mean, probably not at this moment because of COVID. 20th Century Fox owns it, so Fox ends up owning Buffy kind of at the end of its life. It was on the WB, and then it went to Fox, I think in season 5, I want to say. Okay. But I can fact check that. So Joss Whedon is involved, but he's brought in Midnight Texas creator Monica Owusu-Breen. I'm sorry if that's an incorrect pronunciation, but I am doing my best, as the showrunner. And I'm definitely nervous about the reboot, just as anybody who's like super fan would be about, just like you probably felt about Star Wars.
But if the original creator, if Joss Whedon is still involved, I feel like it, it probably won't
be good.
Bad, right?
Right. Yeah. So it definitely gives me hope that he's involved. And also the showrunner, she said, what made me love her was that she said, Buffy the Vampire Slayer is my Star Wars, which I was like, girl, me too. She watched it growing up and she was obsessed with it. And she says there's no way that, there's just no way to replace the original. She would never try to. And she said, but here we are 20 years later and the world seems a lot scarier. So maybe it could be time to meet a new Slayer. And there's not really much else concretely known about it other than the reboot is to include a much diverse cast, likely with a Black Slayer, which I am really excited about because, you know, Buffy does a great job, I think, of like having super strong female characters, but it really does fall short on diversity. And, you know, though reportedly Joss actually wanted a Black actress to play Cordelia, but the WB thought that interracial relationships on the show might be problematic.
Oh boy, WB.
Yeah. So
not a good look 20 years later.
Yeah. So not great.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was the late 90s. Come on. Like, but at the same time, the late 90s is like one of those things where it's like that was almost 25 years ago, which seems simultaneously like a long time and not really that long ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, lack of diversity in leading television roles was a problem in the 90s, in the early 2000s, pretty much forever until now, and we still have a lot of work to do.
Right.
So, yeah. So that's kind of like my brief rundown of the history of Buffy, the present of Buffy, and also when the show ended, it actually continued in comic book form. And I've read some of them. I truthfully haven't like super kept up with it, but
yeah,
I want to. And there's some reasons why I haven't kept up with it that I won't get into right now because it's not relevant in this
right. We still got to get into the episode 1.
Yes. So episode 1. Let's talk about the plot.
Yeah.
So here's the plot. Buffy Summers and her mom have moved to Sunnydale from LA after Buffy was kicked out of her previous school for burning down the gym because it was filled with vampire asbestos. Good cover, Buffy.
Yeah, so Buffy putting her foot in her mouth is something that happens over and over in this episode, and I'm sure this is just a constant thing that happens throughout the entire show run. Is it? I'm asking.
I mean, yes and no. Like, obviously, they're trying to set up... It's a tricky situation, right? Because they're trying to set up this thing where she clearly has to keep this a secret.
Yeah.
But they're also trying to move the story along and introduce what she is. And also, I think also by her putting her foot in her mouth and like correcting herself, we're also seeing like, oh, this is a secret. Like, this isn't something she's not wearing a button that says like, I'm
it's
a
a
Slayer,
real big secret. Vampire asbestos.
Yeah, obviously. But it's like, you know, so it's like, okay, her mom doesn't know. You know what I mean?
I don't know if that's the best writing. Like there could have been like a slower reveal of that information, you know what I mean? But I understand that like the pilot too, like you have to grab your audience. You have to like let them know what's happening. So, and this is what I need to like divorce myself of because I think of it in movie terms. And in like when I watch a film, I like things to not really be told to me as much. Like I want to find out for myself. I want there to be some sort of clever reveal or some sort of uncovering through dialogue or plot devices or something that's clever. But when somebody just sort of spits it out by accident and then eats their words, I was kind of like, what? What is that? But I have to remember, this isn't a movie. This isn't an Oscar-winning film. This is a show that's made by the WB, the frog with the hat on.
Yeah,
I've got to keep that in mind when I'm watching this because it's
it was made for teens.
It's not film. Yeah,
it was made for teens, and it was like Joss wanted you to know up front this girl is a badass. Like he didn't want it to be a secret because everybody would assume that she was some kind of just lame blonde girl that was going to get her ass beat or whatever. You know,
so
what
you
got
to sell the idea.
Some silly teen drama.
Yeah.
So yes, the writing probably not the best, you know, here, at least in those parts, but that's definitely, like you're saying, like that's one way to kind of move it
we
along.
got to catch your audience up. But, you know, pilot, you got to engage the audience. You got to give them as much information as you can in a half hour so that people come back for the next week.
Right. So what we learn is Buffy is the Slayer, quote, the one girl in all the world. She alone will wield the strength and skill to fight the vampires, demons, and the forces of darkness to stop the spread of their evil and swell of their number. So, but we see that Buffy would really rather not be the Slayer. She just wants to fit in and have a social life at her new school, but it looks like that will be hard to do because she's moved to a town that's sitting on the mouth of hell, whatever that means. We don't really know, other than there seems to be a lot of mystical activity in this area.
Can I diverge really quick? I just got to get this out of my brain.
Yes.
They should put me in charge of rebooting this show, even though I've only seen the pilot episode 2 or 3 times.
Oh, yeah, I want to hear this.
Okay, so this is my idea for the reboot, okay?
Okay.
So we bring Sarah Michelle Gellar back, right? What's she doing right now? Who knows? Okay, so
I
let's...
think she does some kind of baking. She has like cookie baking kits or something.
Well, there you go. So let's bring her back, okay? She has started a school. It's a vampire slaying school, okay? And now it's not just the Slayer. She's teaching a whole new generation of Slayers. So it's a whole school that's very exclusive. It's kind of like Hogwarts, okay?
Yeah.
Nobody knows the location. You have to, there's a special way to get in, yada, yada, yada. There's a whole bunch of lore around it. So the pilot episode is we follow somebody who gets attacked by a vampire or something like that. Something to grab your attention about the vampires, right? And then at the end of the episode, she gets reeled in by Buffy, and we reveal Sarah Michelle Gellar as Buffy. Once again,
Buffy.
Professor Buffy, and she invites this new student to her school. She's like, I think you would belong at this school that I've started. And then boom, to be continued. That's a award-winning show. Joss Whedon, give me a call.
Yeah, I think you should write to him.
What do you think, though? It's a good idea, right?
I'm not going to comment on that, but I think you should put a pin in that.
Ooh, okay. Something's going to happen. I'm on to something here. Is she? Oh, she probably dies at the end or something, right?
I can't respond to that. Come on.
I know.
But also, I hope that you're not, like, it was funny because I almost sent you a GIF the other day, like a Buffy GIF, and maybe I did. No, I know I sent one to Dave, but...
Yeah, you didn't send it to me.
But, like, it's so crazy, just me looking at the GIFs, I'm like, man, there's, like, it gives a lot away by looking at these.
Gifts it a lot away?
A lot away.
Oh.
So, don't look at any GIFs, don't look at anything. Because it's like it's so easy to ruin shows. Yeah. I'm really surprised that I know nothing about Lost, other than the things that I'm actually
very, very surprised that you knew nothing about Lost.
Yeah. We'll get in. So let's get back. So, she just wants to fit in at her new school. And she finds out that the librarian is also new at her new school.
Mr. Giles.
Yep. And he is a watcher whose responsibility it is to train and prepare the Slayer. He warns Buffy that the signs, as far as I can tell, point to a crucial mystical upheaval very soon. Days, possibly less. So, and a similar warning is delivered to Buffy later that evening by a handsome stranger.
So hold on.
She's on the way to the Bronze. Yeah.
Questions. Mr. Giles, does Mr. Giles get the job knowing that Buffy is coming to the school? Is that why he gets the job?
Don't know.
Okay, we don't know.
All right. We don't know that. Yeah.
Continue on.
We just know that, how interesting is it that she came to this school that's, located in a town that's on the Hellmouth or whatever.
Yeah.
And he is new, and man, I cannot do words today.
You lost them all on the beach.
I lost them all on the beach when I was picking up trash and losing words.
Dumping words, picking up trash.
Yeah. But yeah, so just, is it a coincidence that they both ended up here? We have no idea.
Yeah.
Probably not. And that's kind of what Giles is saying. He's like, do you really think it's a coincidence that you wound up here in this place that's sitting on the mouth of hell?
Right.
So anyway, similar warning delivered to Buffy by this handsome stranger that she meets while she's on the way to the Bronze, which is a local hangout for youths.
So dreamy.
We don't know his name yet, though, as you pointed out.
Yeah, but I know.
Good point.
Spoilers.
And then at the Bronze, she meets up with Shy Willow, who she met at school. She's
Willow, who is shy. Not Shy Willow, but Willow,
who is shy. Yes. She's smart, super smart, as we're learning. but obviously unpopular girl.
Yeah. Is there nothing sadder than watching an unpopular girl eat out of a brown bag for her lunch by herself?
I know. I love Willow so
I'm like,
much.
it's so pathetic to watch somebody just being so defeated eating their lunch out of a brown bag.
Yeah. And she's eating raisins at the brunch. Like, I just
adorable.
love her so much.
It's
I
adorable.
just love her. I mean, there just no one could have done that better than Allison Hannigan, I think. So...
Also, one thing I noticed in this show is this is like a California thing, I feel like, is like here in the Northeast growing up, school, middle school, high school, etc. When you left class, you never went outside. The only time you went outside was like at the end of the day or like for gym class or whatever. But then it was straight back inside. You were inside for the rest of the day. Yeah. But I feel like California, like all the movies and the shows that you see that are California based, like outside, like the hallways is outside, so everybody's
so true,
constantly outside, you know, eating their lunch. Like a lot of their meet and greets are outside. And I always thought that was so cool.
They do that in
growing
Veronica
up.
Mars. Like,
yeah. So it's just something I wrote down. I was like, man, I wish we had outdoor. I mean, not during the winter. I guess that's the reason for it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I remember in my elementary school there was like a separated building that some kids went to. Like, I don't remember.
This sounds so ominous.
It wasn't like bad. I think it was just like some classes were in there or something. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was like for gifted kids and I wasn't gifted. I don't know. Like, I didn't get to go in the special building. But and obviously recess was outside, but yeah, no, you're totally right. There wasn't, there's not really, I feel like I think like when I was in high school, sometimes we would have class outside, but like that was pretty rare.
Very rare for me. It was always inside the dusty asbestos-filled hallways.
Asbestos. Maybe you should have burned down the school.
Vampire asbestos.
So she's chatting with Willow. She's trying to, Willow's clearly like not confident like at all, especially not with guys. And so Buffy tries to kind of help her be a little bit more confident.
Right.
Around the guys. And, unfortunately, the guy that Willow chooses to be confident with is a vampire. Yeah. And so Buffy and Willow's friend Xander try to save Willow. But Buffy finds herself in a fight with 3 vampires, one that she stakes, Willow's poor choice guy, one who runs away, who is Darla, who had bitten Willow and Xander's friend Jesse, and the third one, Luke, is pretty damn strong as he battles Buffy. So while Buffy is, kind of like battling with Luke, Willow and Xander kind of like take Jesse and run, only to be surrounded by Darla and a dozen or so vampires that are closing in on them. And the episode ends with Luke moving in to bite Buffy. That's
to be continued, yeah.
To be continued.
Yeah, major cliffhanger.
It's really hard with both Buffy and Lost not to like jump right into the next
I know,
episode,
that's how I
both
felt.
Super cliffhangers.
Right.
And I mean, that's what you want to do, right? With the first episode. So
did you watch both these episodes for both shows back to back like I did?
No, I watched one Thursday night. I watched Buffy Thursday night and I watched Lost last night, Friday night. Yeah, I was like you. I wanted to, just get right into the second episode of both shows just to at least, finish out these cliffhangers. But as you will find out, and I'm not sure if Buffy does this, but Lost Do you want to tell me this?
I do want to tell you this because it's very broad. Lost is the king of cliffhangers, the best and worst cliffhangers that you will ever experience in any kind of media. They're going to leave you hanging, and it's going to be a slow, painful death for you because it's one of these shows that people have gotten so used to binging because it's such a bingeable show, and you won't be able to binge this.
That's what's so interesting about this right now, right? This challenge that we're doing is like, and who knows, as we start recording, like maybe we'll be watching them more frequently, but it's really hard to not binge because we've gotten so used to binging these episodes that like normally, I'd be like, oh, and especially with Dave working late at night, like I'm home alone until midnight or whatever, sometimes much later. So a lot of times I'm feeling...
Let's not broadcast that.
let's not brag. Nobody knows where I live. But yes. Listen, I have Simply Safe. And also I have
killer
Slayer
dog
moves
and a killer dog.
Killer dog. So nobody's going to mess with me.
Right.
But yeah, so like a lot of times, like I'm, and we'll talk about this when we get to our new segment about, the other stuff that we're watching and stuff. But, I'm very used to, like, it's very easy for me to just go to the next episode. So yeah, it definitely took a lot of willpower for me to not just want to like blast through Buffy.
Right.
But I also know that because I know the show so well, I have to be very careful about what I watch with it. Like I have to watch it in tandem with you, because otherwise, like I might go ahead and I might misremember things from different episodes, and I can't do that.
And you already spoiled the name Angel for me, so let's not continue down that road.
Sorry.
So, one thing that you sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to start with like how it starts, but we're
how
in
what
the
starts?
Episode,
I thought we already talked about the whole show. Didn't you run through the whole plot?
I went through the plot, but I gotta, now we're in discussion mode.
Oh, okay. So, all right. First thing I want to talk about is the dead guy in the school. So.
The guy in the locker?
The guy in the locker. Okay. So somebody opens the locker. It's gym class or after gym class, whatever.
Yeah.
They open the locker. This dude falls out of it. Okay. And so they close up the doors of the locker room, and then it just becomes like a rumor mill day where they're like, hey, did you hear there's a dead guy in the locker room? And they're like, yeah, it's so crazy, right? But what happens in Sunnydale that there's no such thing as a crime scene? That where are the cops? Why are the kids still at school? I have so many questions about this ordeal and how this police procedure is being handled, because the chief needs to get fired. They need to clear the scene.
Funny. Okay, it's so funny that you bring that up, because like that is something that I feel like does not get addressed for way too long in this show. But it does eventually. I guess that's kind of a spoiler alert. Not really, but like you kind of get to some of why that is happening. But yeah, it's like
why they just disregard what's happening. Are the police vampires? Are the police in on it too? That's what I want to know. I'm asking you this question.
Can't tell you that. I can't tell you that.
Police are in on it.
But maybe that could be your prediction.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I'm gonna mark
but yeah,
that down.
so also let's like, speaking of the dead guy in the locker. So I love how the episode starts, because like after the intro piece that kind of happens, we're in a dark hallway. It's clearly a school. Then we see a creepy science classroom with skeletons everywhere. The promo tagline for the first season was "High school is hell." And I think they do it's a double entendre, obviously, right?
Yeah.
I think they do a great job of visually setting that up right at the beginning. And it also sets up the show to do the thing it does so well, that it's studied in the academic world today, and that is creating supernatural monsters out of issues teens really face. So, I'm not going to get into this too much because #spoiler alert, but you've got, some of the issues that teens face right in just everyday life is controlling mothers, changing her personality to fit into the cool gang, like sneaking into a school with a guy because you want to impress him. Willow following this vampire around because she's like taking a risk and trying to be cool. And you've got obviously bullying, school shootings, abusive, controlling relationships, suicide, feeling invisible. Like these are all things that like teenagers are tackling with in general. Yeah. And that was like what Joss Whedon, he's like, I want to bring this stuff out and but also make it like you're literally dealing with monsters, and some of these things are like literal monsters too. Right. And so that's why it's like a horror show and it's campy and whatever, but there's also real stuff happening that like you can really connect to, because we went through our teenage years and had to battle our own, demons. Yeah. So I just think that like that's something that the show really does do super well.
Speaking of demons, I just want to say This is my favorite part of the show so far, is the makeup effects of the vampires or the monsters, the demons, whatever you want to call them. They're vampires, right? They're all vampires.
Yes.
So
that we've seen right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that we've seen. So their makeup effects are done really well. They remind me of Evil Dead or like sort of old like 70s or 80s horror films. I liked how they would transform to this vampire, right? But then it got me thinking. I was like, so what is their preferred look? It's the vampire look, but they can disguise themselves to look more like humans, right?
Yes. So
but they prefer to look like the vampires? Like, do you think that's like a better look in the vampire world?
Well, okay. So, I actually have a really good quote from Joss Whedon on that because I did look into that. So,
okay.
But first of all, like, all right. I've always been into vampires, like super. I went to a Catholic middle school and like we had to write a term paper in 8th grade and I wrote it on like Dracula and just
of course
like,
you did.
vampire lore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I remember
it's on brand.
I got an A+ on it, but
wow.
I remember my teacher saying, I wonder what got you into this. And I'm like, bitch, I watch Buffy. Like, and I just always been into it. I read Dracula really young. Like I love the Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman in it. Oh, best Dracula ever. Anyway, so in vampire lore, vampires are supposed to be like very sexy and like you're supposed to be drawn to them, whatever. So like they're not gonna look ugly. They want to look like that's their whole thing is like drawing you in and being attractive. Although, it's funny because Buffy is like obviously dissing this guy's outfit. So she's like, get a load of this guy. Like, what is he, he's dressing like the day he died.
Right.
So, but yeah, so Joss Whedon actually talks about this in Mental Floss. He says, I wanted to increase the sense of paranoia by making vampires resemble normal people until it's time to feed or, until it's time to attack them. And he said, stabbing normal looking people might send the wrong message. So,
I gotcha.
So that's kind of his
right.
response.
So he had to make them more demonic looking. He had to make them an enemy, like a visible enemy too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So because we wouldn't want to be fighting somebody who looks like Johnny Depp.
Well, no. I mean, I wish.
How could we?
Why?
Right.
What a waste. Even in Sweeney Todd, you don't want to fight him.
Yeah.
Let the guy do his thing. I mean, he's earned it.
Right. So okay, I'm gonna drop something on you, and it's gonna be unpopular.
Okay, hold on. Let me just say one more thing.
All right.
wanted to bring
one more
up.
thing.
So
we're never gonna get to Lost today.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
This is going to be a longer episode because there was so much ground to cover with Buffy. Like there is just so much. And actually on that, no, high school is hell, which was the tagline for the season, is also the title of the first volume of 2019 Buffy trade paperbacks, which collect issues 1 through 4 of the comic book series that reimagines Buffy today. So same Buffy. It's not what's going to be. I mean, maybe elements of it will be in like the revisioning of the show or the reboot, but it's basically like if Buffy, Sarah Michelle Gellar, went back to school in 2019 as the Slayer, as the same age, whatever, what would that be like? So, she's got a cell phone now. Anyway, I just wanted to drop that in.
Okay.
Like literally on the cover, she's got a cell phone. And it's like,
right.
Oh yeah, how different would that have been if she had had a cell phone? Like that's something that I know Dave brought up while we were watching this.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right, go ahead, drop it.
All right, yeah, I got a big bomb to drop. You're not going to like it, and anybody who's listening to this podcast who loves Buffy the Vampire Slayer is probably not going to like it either.
Okay.
But I keep in mind, this is only after seeing one episode, okay? So I have a lot of time to grow. I have a lot of time to learn and to understand better. But so far, Buffy Summers kind of annoys me. And I'll tell you why. And I really want to like Buffy. Mm-hmm. I understand she has a lot of confidence, but to me, it's a little grating. The way that she delivers her confidence, I almost feel like she's a little too sure of herself sometimes, and she lacks a little bit of humility. sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get that. So my favorite moment, should we talk about that now? Because like my favorite moment addresses what you're talking about.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So my favorite moment of this show is when she, Buffy examines the dead guy in the locker room, goes back to the library to talk to Giles, and he says, I was afraid of this. And she goes, well, I wasn't. It's my first day. I was afraid I was going to be behind in all my classes. I wouldn't make any friends. I would have last month's hair. I didn't think there'd be vampires on campus, and I don't care. And then they have like a little back and forth, and then she suggests that Giles go and slay the vampires because she wants to retire. And he's like, well, I don't have the skill. Like, I'm a watcher. And she's like, my job, he's like, my job is to, and she goes, oh, watch? And he's like, yes, no. He trains her, he prepares her. And she goes, prepares me for what? For getting kicked out of school? For losing all my friends? For having to spend all of my time fighting for my life and never getting to tell anyone because I might endanger them? Go ahead, prepare me. And she kind of like walks out.
So she's been through it. She's been through a little bit of a ringer in her past school.
So yeah, she's got, but like think about yourself as a teenager. And, we all were a little bit different, but like I'm sure there were times in your life, maybe a lot of times where you had like this false sense of confidence, right? Like you're a teenager, you know everything, right?
Yeah.
And then there's also like the flip side of that is like, we really don't have any confidence and like we really are trying to figure our shit out.
Right.
And I think like that moment to me is where Buffy, like, yes, she has like some of that confidence, but like she's really terrified. She really is, like, she really does have all of these same fears of going back to school that anybody else, so it's just a really good moment of vulnerability to me because like, yeah, she's clearly some kind of superhero. She's got some powers that I don't have, but she's also a teenage girl and has the same, fears and emotions as any other teenage girl. Again, like I was saying earlier about taking those real teen issues and like adding this element of horror to them. That's what's happening here, so she's a vampire slayer, but she's also just moved schools and doesn't have any of her friends around her. And, we don't really know what, if like her dad doesn't seem to be in the picture. So we don't know if that's a new thing. Like that could be an issue that she's dealing with, it just seems to be her and her mom. So I think like that's a really endearing scene and really helps, like that's what kind of could help you connect to those shared relatable human emotions. Like, she's afraid. She's got this huge weight on her shoulders and she's not really sure that she can handle it, like in addition to also everything that she might go through, like you might go through transferring schools.
So I think you make a good point there, and maybe that's something I wasn't really seeing was I got to remember high school, and my high school self was you're right. There was a bit of faux confidence or something that like, you got it figured out or something, or you know what you're going to do, but you really don't. And you have no idea what's going on. So if I frame it in that sort of thought, like, okay, this is not exactly who she is. She isn't this uber. I think she is confident with slaying vampires. That's like one thing that she's very confident about because she's done it. She is the vampire slayer. So she's confident. She knows how to handle herself.
She clearly, she talked about that a little bit. She knows a little bit. And, when she's saying to Giles, she's like, oh, it's really easy, like stake through the heart, a little bit of sunshine, whatever. Like, it's like falling off a log, I think is what she says in that same exchange. And again, it's easier for me, I think, to put myself in that position. Like, number one, like I was also a female as a teenager. And I was watching this when I was... I was a few years younger, like this was 97, came out in 97. So I would have been like not yet 10, at this point. And Buffy's what, 15, 16 at this point. So obviously like I was a bit younger, but I could relate to that feeling. And like, I was going through a whole lot of shit too with my family and like I mean, maybe we can get into that a little bit when we talk about, because I do have like some notes about her relationship with her mom. But, you know, so like I think it was really easy for me to get into that because I watched this when I was young. I remember like having that false sense of confidence and also trying to figure out my place in the world and my family and with my friend group and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, again, that just kind of goes back to that whole, like, here she's sure she's this like powerful slayer, we think, but she's also got all of her own vulnerabilities and emotional demons that she's dealing with. But I think it's a very teen thing in general to have that false sense of confidence. Yeah. And so she's like trying to figure that out for herself. But I get it. Like she's like she's probably a little bit annoying. She's not as cute as Willow, you know?
No, Willow I can connect with much more.
But she's also, like, I think we also have, and like, you know, I don't want to be sexist here, right? Because you're a man, but like...
Here we go.
We have a problem with confident women. We have a problem with
Wait, hold
women.
on. Are you saying that I have a problem with confident women?
I'm not saying. Maybe that's why you have a little bit of problem with her, because she is confident.
Boy.
Like, maybe that, like, why is that a problem? I mean, like, you can be confident and you can be bitchy, like Cordelia, right? Like, I think we can. No,
hold on. Let's back up. Let's back up a little bit. So it's not it's the overconfidence married with the sing-songy nature of it all. I think that's what it is. Okay. It's the da-da-da-da. I got it figured out. This is how it goes. Da-da-da-da. It's like, you're 16. You're 16. Yeah. It's more of the age thing than it is the female.
What you are like when you're, well, I don't want to speak for you.
Right. But you know, I feel like
there are definitely times where I was like that when I was 16. Right. Because if I wasn't sing-songy and if I wasn't like, you know, you gotta like live your life today, because like the reality is she could be dead tomorrow. Right. Willow could be dead. Buffy could be dead. That's the reality that Buffy lives in. So it's like that's really heavy shit. Like if she could just be like depressed about it, and it could be really weighing on her, but she's choosing to try to be upbeat. Right. So that being said, though, if Xander walks in and starts going, "Hey, everybody, I got it figured out. This is exactly what's happening," I would have the exact same feeling. So let's not make this about a female versus male thing. Okay. We won't. I also just want to say on the lines of like role reversals and you know, I don't want to. Sorry, I keep going back to the beginning, and I have other notes, but. I also think it's really funny in the intro, like, so again, Joss's idea, like, we don't, you know, blonde little women are not weak. Like, we want to show them as strong. At the beginning of this episode, you've also got a seemingly powerless blonde woman sneaking into the school with a guy, probably
as if she's the victim.
Right. You assume she's going to be the victim. You assume she's been pressured into this. Something probably bad is going to happen to her. And then she's the one who turns around and overpowers the guy. She's a vampire, so we probably don't want to root for her, but I still really love that. Like, you know, again, unexpected. Like, we're flipping the script on its head immediately. And I just find that kind of fun. Also, if you recognize her, Julie Benz plays Rita on Dexter. Played the show's over, but I don't know if you probably don't watch Dexter because you don't watch any shows, I love Dexter.
I started to watch Dexter because everybody was talking about how cool it was, and I watched like the first or second episode. And I was just like, nope, can't get into it. Don't like it.
Is it too gory for you, or was it just?
I think it was just the idea. I think it was just the idea, like just what the show was about and everything.
Serial killer with a conscience.
Yeah, I just can't get into that. Like, it wasn't what I wanted to spend many hours of my life watching. Yeah, and I'm glad I didn't, because I heard it ends up terribly.
I did not like the ending.
Yeah, so that's what I've heard about. They should have
ended it much earlier than they did, and from what I heard, the writers were pressured to end it that way. But anyway. Okay.
Should we move on to Lost? Do we have anything else? I'm sure you have. I'm sure you're on page 2 of about page 70 on this.
I have 6 pages, but that includes my Lost
6
notes.
pages?
Yeah.
What page are we on?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of skipping around, but this is like, I'm on 4.
Okay.
I'll just share a few more things.
Okay, a few more things.
I have actually been to Sunnydale High. Fun fact.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, on your across the world trip that you did there?
I think it was actually on my road trip. Yeah.
Wow.
So I have an uncle who lives in LA. A couple of years ago, I did a solo cross country road trip. I had just bought a new Honda, and I was like, yeah, this seems like a good time to go on a road trip.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. But yeah, so I stopped in LA, and I had been to LA a couple times to visit my uncle already.
Yep.
And so he was like, I was only there for a day because I'm on this road trip by myself. I got to keep moving. But he's like, oh, what do we want to do? Like, we can do this. We can do this.
You're like, I have one thing I want to do.
I have one thing. I want to go to Sunnydale High. And it's actually Torrance High School in Torrance, California.
Okay.
It's only about like 25, 30 minutes south of LA. So he was like, yeah, we could do that. And yeah, so he brought me, I have a great photo. I'm going to put it on our Instagram of me holding a steak in front of it in a Slayer pose.
So did you bring that steak in with you? You just had it in your purse?
No, I found it on the ground. I mean, of course there's going to be steaks all over the place.
Right.
Yeah, it was like a little tree branch or something that I picked up.
Cool.
But yeah, and it's just cute story with that. Like, my uncle knew that I loved Buffy, so every once in a while he would like watch it so he could like call me and talk to me about it.
Yeah.
It was really cute. There's always so much pop culture reference in Buffy that I didn't always get, so I just like wrote some things down. They, like when Cordelia's kind of quizzing Buffy, she asks about John Tesh, and Buffy is like the devil. I had to look. I have no idea who that was. He's a pianist. He writes easy listening Christian music. He hosted Entertainment Tonight, had his own radio show. And fun fact, he played a Klingon in Star Trek. I also just love in the locker scene when they're like the two girls before they find the dead guy are like, what kind of a name is Buffy? And then there's a girl who says to her, oh, hey, Aphrodisia. It's like, it's just so stupid. I just love like just the little things like that.
Yeah.
And then DeBarge, that was another one where like when Buffy is insulting the vampire that Willow kind of went after.
Yeah.
She goes, you look like DeBarge. I had to look up who that was. Mm-hmm. They're a family group, sort of like Jackson 5E. They sing, their kind of like big one was Rhythm of the Night.
Oh, okay. I know that song. Yeah. I mean, I could picture it right away. Like I heard it in my brain.
Well,
but
there's
now I
another
really
Rhythm of
hear
the
it,
Night,
so
too.
that's good.
There's another Rhythm of the Night, too. So,
okay. You want to sing that one? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, sorry.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Oh, see? So there you go.
Okay. You had to sing them out.
That.
Oh, one thing I wanted to say, my favorite line from Willow was when I believe Buffy is talking with Willow about getting men or attracting men or something of the sort.
Being confident.
And she said, oh, I usually make a few vocal sounds and then I go away. And that made me laugh pretty hard.
Oh, I know. She's so cute.
Yeah, that's a good one.
She's so cute. Yeah, and like the whole idea that the first guy she takes a chance on ends up being a literal monster. Like, I think a lot of us ladies can relate to that feeling.
Yeah. That's not going to set her up for success, that's for sure.
So let's move on to Lost.
Yeah,
Unless
okay,
do
Lost.
you have anything else you want to say?
No,
about Buffy?
absolutely not.
Okay.
I mean, overall, I thought it was enjoyable experience. Like, this isn't something I would ever seek out to watch, especially now
Hence
it being
kicking and
quite
streaming.
dated, hence kicking and streaming. But that being said, I felt like I watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer first, took a whole bunch of notes while I was watching it, and then I watched Lost directly after. And then afterwards, like my wife and I just looked at each other like, this is fun. Like this was a good time watching both shows back to back. Like in every week we're going to have like a Buffy and Lost night. And it's actually, pretty exciting. And I'm looking forward to watching more.
Now, has Amy, your wife, seen any of these? Has she seen either of these before?
She has seen Lost with me up to the point that I had seen it when it originally aired. Or actually, we were like a year behind because we would get the DVDs and watch them, like binge watch them on DVDs. No. Oh, yeah. Well,
the Netflix DVD thing, yeah.
Yes.
That's how I watched.
It was
that's how I
Netflix
watched
DVD.
Dexter.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly how we did it.
That's so funny.
So, yeah, we watched it back, this must have been, I think we started like 2006 or something. So we sort of binged it through there until the end. But we, as I said in the intro, we never finished the first run. So.
But she's never seen Buffy.
She's never seen Buffy, no. And
That's cool.
I think we kind of like giggled throughout it, just being like, oh boy, like this is silly. This is silly times.
It's very 90s.
Right.
And I think like that was Dave's problem with it.
Yeah.
But he knows not to criticize it too much because,
But let me
it's
say
not gonna
this
be good
though.
for us.
We watched just the other night, we were looking for something to watch and we wanted something funny, so we ended up watching the movie Clueless, which is
God.
made right around the same time. So
Yes.
we watched Clueless, and the whole time I was just kind of like sitting there like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? What is this movie? Why does everybody love it? Like, I couldn't figure it out. If I put Clueless versus Buffy the Vampire Slayer just for my own personal enjoyment, I'll take Buffy any day. Like, it is hands above what Clueless was for me.
I don't know how I feel about that. Like, of course, it should be.
Okay,
Like,
I know. But I feel like Clueless has a huge following and people love Clueless.
I guess. I mean, that's like, yeah, I mean, it was like funny, whatever. I don't know. I feel like I'm sure I watched it like when it came out, probably saw it with my friends, whatever. But like, it wasn't like hugely impactful to me.
Yeah. I hope not.
Like I'm not, maybe I watched it a second time or something when I was a little older, but like I can't remember and it keeps coming up because it is on, I don't know if it's Hulu or Netflix or whatever, but it does keep like popping up for me.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, you like 90s teen dramas. You'd probably love this. And I'm like, meh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Could take it or leave it.
Okay, let's move on to Lost. So Lost was a show that was created by J.J. Abrams. The pilot here was written by J.J. Abrams himself, Damon Lindelof, which is a big writer in Hollywood, also Jeffrey Lieber. The first episode originally debuted on September 22nd, 2004. That was part 1. Part 2, which we'll watch for the next episode, was a week later, September 29th, 2004. So the original pilot was actually, at the time, was the most expensive show ever shot. It cost between $10 and $14 million to shoot this pilot. And the reason was
one episode or like the first two?
Well, the first 2 episodes, I think, is what they're, because they consider the first 2 episodes like the pilot.
Plane, so
right.
I get
so that
it. Like, that had to be a lot.
That was a major part of it. Was they shot in Hawaii, so they had to ship out the wreckage of Flight 815. So just shipping out the wreckage of this plane cost them $250,000 just to get a real broken plane on a real beach in Oahu. Cost them $250,000. So, and then, filming in a remote location like where they were is obviously going to be quite pricey as well, because they got to bring all the equipment out, they got to have lodging, they got to put everybody up there, and then, the craft services and everything. It's much, much harder to shoot on an island somewhere than it is, on a soundstage in LA.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
I mean, they've got everything there.
Right. So the plot line for the pilot part 1 is...
Can I just say one thing? So when we first started talking about this, I feel like you led me to believe that they were around the same time. And I don't know if I just misunderstood.
I led you to believe?
Yeah.
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, because I don't know anything about Lost. I have no concept of when it aired. But I feel like when we recorded our intro episode, we were talking about them as if they were like on at the same time.
Yeah.
But in reality, Buffy ended in May 2003. This show aired September 2004.
Right. So they're two different generations, almost.
Well, yeah, because I'm watching it, because I'm thinking like, oh,
it's going to be really dated.
Yeah, but I'm like, damn, this show looks good. I mean,
it's a movie. It's like, a movie.
Yeah, and I mean, like, takes place on a remote island, and, this beautiful tropical island. So, like, Of course
Yeah.
it's going to look good, but
Yeah, this show's
I just feel
legit.
like, and I do feel like that's one thing, like it's got a huge advantage over Buffy for that
does.
alone. Because
It
like
does.
you were saying in our intro, like, oh God, like Buffy isn't even shot like widescreen. They just
Yeah.
like, they didn't have that
Right.
technology back then. So
Right.
that is something I feel like we have to keep in mind. And
Yeah.
it's, it's hard to, it's going to be, so it sort of sucks that you're watching them back to back because like I feel like every time you're going to be like, this is such a breath of fresh air over like the shitty Buffy
but
quality.
it's gonna work perfectly though because I'll watch Buffy first, and then as a nice palate cleanser, I'll get to watch this Hollywood
Great.
blockbuster of Lost. So
I wish that I could watch them with Dave, but number one, I don't think he has any interest in rewatching Buffy, but he's working so late that like we just don't have the time to watch it. So.
He should watch it on his own time.
I do think I'm going to try and get him to watch the pilot of Lost because I think he had a lot of the same misconceptions about the show that I did, and it's also very hard to get him to watch anything. So but like I think maybe I'll try to get him to watch the first episode, just see if he likes it.
Right. Okay, so
But anyway,
plot for the pilot part 1 is 48 survivors of an airline flight originating from Australia bound for the U.S., which crash lands onto an unknown island 1,000 miles off course.
Okay, we don't know that though. I don't know it's coming from Australia and going to the U.S.
Okay,
That's not
well,
something that's in the episode.
You know what? I didn't know about Angel, so now
Okay.
you know
All right,
it's
fair,
from
fair.
Australia. Okay, all right. Now
That's fair.
we're even Stevens,
I hope we find that out soon. I hope that's not a big plot reveal.
which crash lands onto an unknown island 1,000 miles off course. We do find that out in the
Yes.
episode.
Yes.
And they struggle to figure out a way to survive while trying to find a way to be rescued. So, great cast, I gotta say right away. Matthew Fox plays Dr. Jack Shepard. My favorite of this episode, I love Evangeline Lilly, who plays Kate. She's just so good. Also, Dominic Monahan, who you might remember from Lord of the Rings. He was one of the hobbits. He plays Charlie,
Wait, he's is he Pippin?
maybe. He's one
Wait.
of the hobbits.
I'm gonna look right now.
Mary. He plays Mary. The other one, not Pippin.
Okay.
You're thinking of Billy Boyd, who's like his best friend in real life too.
But I think I probably am thinking the right one. Like visually, I just mixed up their names all the time. Oh
Yeah.
my God, that's so funny because I was like, where? I was like, I feel like he's like vaguely familiar. His face. I loved Charlie.
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 Yeah.
I
Oh,
like him.
Charlie's character in this show. I don't want to give anything away.
Don't
but,
say
oh,
anything.
it's so good.
I love him already.
As I was watching this show too, or rewatching this show this time, I was like, I remember all of this. Like, I haven't forgotten one bit of the show. It's made such an impression on me. Like, all the characters, I knew, like, as each character came on screen, I knew their name, I knew their backstory, I remembered everything, all their relationships. I was like, oh man, this show is really, really good. So it got me pretty pumped up, and I was not really that excited to rewatch it, but
Yeah.
now I'm like fully invested all over again.
Well, and I'll say, as someone who has never seen it, who had zero interest in seeing it, I obviously had like a lot of misconceptions about this show.
Yeah.
I was like, like it starts with a literal bang.
Yeah.
And the opening, I felt so much like it felt so much like Saving Private Ryan, that just like complete total sense of panic and chaos and just like everything. I'm in it. I'm in
Just
it now.
visceral action really grabs a hold of you. I mean, this is what a pilot's supposed to do. This grabs
Yes.
your attention. I mean, they had a lot of money to do so, and they have
Right.
incredible writers.
Yes.
And they shot on
they
location.
Had better equipment. Okay, like
Okay,
let's not
well,
knock
we don't need to.
Buffy.
Okay, I'm not knocking the quality of Buffy.
And maybe by the end, like maybe we should compare when we get to the end of Buffy with the beginning of Lost. Like,
Wait, do they
I
go
feel like-
widescreen by the end of Buffy's run, or do
I
they
honestly
stay 4:3?
can't remember, but I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do.
I don't know. We'll see.
They must, but I honestly, truly can't remember.
Yeah.
That's
so
not, like, again, I'm not, I'm not a video producer, cinematography guy like you are. So that's not the kind of stuff that I pay attention
Right,
to.
that's
You'll
true.
remember that. I'm
That's
not
true.
going to remember that.
Yeah. So the episode begins with a close-up of Jack's eye, which is a very iconic shot. This is something that a lot of people remember from the first episode. It's just that first shot of the opening eye and then the dilating pupil. And then we find out that there was just a giant plane crash on the beach here, and then Jack comes flying through. The camera work on the beach is so well done. Larry Fong is the cinematographer of this first episode. He's a master cinematographer. I'm a huge Larry Fong fan.
Has he done any war films? Because it really felt...
Larry
that's what
Fong?
it really felt like to me.
That's a great question. Let's look at his IMDb right meow.
Yeah.
While
It
I
just,
do that.
like I said, I mean, I think because we watched Saving Private Ryan somewhat recently for our movie club, like it felt so much like a lot less blood. Definitely. I mean, there was some, obviously in the episode, but that it just like that total sense of just like way too much happening, disorientation, trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
So
Larry Fong, I just went on to his IMDb. He has shot lots of amazing things, a lot of action films, so he knows his way around action camera work. So right now he's shooting a movie called The Tomorrow War, which is in post-production, and that has who's in that? Chris Pratt's in that.
Okay.
So that's
Like
going
him.
to be a big film that's going to come out whenever, 2021 it says. He shot Kong Skull Island, which has a lot of war type stuff. He shot Super 8, which is action, Sucker Punch. He shot 300, and then before that was Lost and a few other things, Van Halen video short. So I would say he's more of an action filmmaker, not so much war, although I would consider 300 a war movie in a way. Have you seen 300?
I saw like the first 15 minutes, maybe.
Okay, it really
I
grabbed
was playing
you.
a
You loved
drinking
it.
game, and it was.
And you passed out?
Anytime something epic happened, you had to take a drink.
Oh my God.
So
What kind of friends are you
15
hanging out
minutes
with?
in, this was an ex-boyfriend.
Oh boy.
Ex being
Okay.
operative. But
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
so 15 minutes in, I was drunk.
Okay. So you should
And I
check it
never
out
went back to
someday.
it.
Yeah, you
Wait,
should
is
check it out sometime.
Is 300 on our... I feel like it's on our list, isn't it? Or am I wrong about that?
I
The
don't know
movie
about
club
that.
list?
I don't
Oh,
know.
all right.
Maybe.
Well, then I need to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
I feel like it is.
So, big plane crash. And then basically the whole rest of the episode is them trying to figure out what happened and then how to get out of the predicament. And I think this is a great episode for setting up all of the characters. We get little glimpses of basically all of the main characters that are in this show. Of course, as the seasons go on, other characters may or may not come into the mix, but that is to be seen. We meet Jack, we meet Hurley, we meet Kate, and then few other characters, which you'll get to know more in later episodes. So one thing I really want to talk about is the flashback, because flashbacks in Lost is a thing that becomes basically in every episode sort of thing. There's a lot of flashbacks to these people's lives.
Okay.
So this first episode has a flashback of Jack's life, only flashes back to his plane ride. So
Yeah.
we get to see basically the plane crash as it happened, which I gotta say,
From his perspective.
yeah, it's legit terrifying. It makes me never want to be on a plane ever.
I know.
Just
I'm like, I'm like, man, this is a good time to be watching the show because we're
Not flying anywhere?
You can fly, I suppose,
Yeah.
but like generally speaking, because we're in a pandemic, people are really discouraged from flying. So
Right.
yeah, I feel like it's gonna give me enough time to get over that a little bit before I
Right.
fly.
And what I love about this show so much is that it gives you, it's what I was talking about earlier in the podcast, which is it gives you little glimpses of information. It doesn't spoon feed it to you expositionally. So it'll give you like little glimpses of characters in the background of these flashbacks or something. And you're like,
Right.
what was that? Just like little moments that they don't really explain, but they'll come back around as you get to watch more and more episodes.
Or even just showing the characters themselves. Like, obviously, we're following Jack, but, as he's interacting with some of the other characters after, they're all trying to figure it out. Like, it was really interesting to see how different people are reacting to what's happening.
Right.
And,
right.
like, you can see some interpersonal conflicts already that you're like, okay, I'm clearly going to learn more about what's happening here.
Yep.
Yep.
I love the introduction to Hurley's character, who takes care of Claire, who's the pregnant lady.
Yeah.
And he brings her a meal, and she's
and
like, "Oh, thank you so much."
One.
And he gives her a second one. She's like, "Thank you."
Really cute.
Like, that's like
"Oh,
one of my
wait."
favorite moments of the show for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Hurley is such a lovable character, and there's so much I want to talk about, but I can't. They flashback. They show the plane crashing, or how it was about to crash, and then it flashes back to normal time on the island. And we get to meet Charlie, who we find out was in sort of a one-hit wonder band, is what it sounds like. And
we're still doing things.
Right, yeah,
He
keeps saying that. It's so funny, such a funny character. He's like, we're still doing things, we're still touring,
Yeah.
And then how they didn't really know who Drive Shaft was at first. And he's like, "Oh, come on, everybody. Everybody."
He starts singing.
Yeah. So I love that character, and he's so funny. He's such a good actor. I love Dominic Monahan. And then basically they're trying to figure out what happened. So they venture out, small group of them. It's Charlie, Kate, and Jack.
Charlie.
Right, Charlie. And they all venture to the middle of the jungle to try to find. Are they trying to find the black box? Is that what they're trying to do? Or are they trying to... Yeah. So they want to find the head of the plane where the cockpit is. Somewhere along the line, I think before they even go out, they realize that there's some weird stuff happening in the jungle. There's some sort of noise. There's some sort of seemingly an animal or some sort of...
Yeah, there's like trees. Well, let me stop you for a second, because before they venture out to try and find the head of the plane... They see this movement and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was confused, because it does seem like that happens at night, and then they wake up the next day and they go to look for the head of the plane. Like, am I right about that? Because I also feel like Jack said something like last night.
Yes.
So, like, I'm sorry, but this shit happens in the woods and then everybody just goes to sleep? Like, it's okay? I'm like... what the I was
well I think
I'm like, what the fuck is happening here?
I think you're
Are
assuming...
people taking watch? Are they like, what's going on? Like, because I'm sorry, but if I'm in that situation, I love horror films, I love like murder mysteries and obviously vampire stuff and demon stuff. I've watched way too much of it, so like I feel like, of course, like every time I see a horror movie, I'm like, why are you doing this? And of course, like I'm screaming, I'm like yelling at the screen while watching Lost.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, everybody just goes to bed. Nobody's going to stay up and like keep an eye on what might be happening. They're not going to like sleep in shifts to be like, there's some shit in the woods.
Did it really shit in the woods? Did they really show them like actually all falling asleep though? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who had restless nights.
No, they don't. But like,
right.
I feel like that was a big, I don't know. I just feel like that was a thing. Like they could have easily covered it in like a few seconds.
Yeah.
But they just were like, oh no, this scary thing is happening in the trees, and then boom, it's the next day.
Maybe it's a deleted scene or something. They had to cut some time, they gotta fit time for the commercials, right? They gotta sell some Crispix.
That to me was like I was annoyed about that.
Fun fact for you, fun piece of trivia here. So when they first originally...
You've been to the island where Lost was filmed?
No, I wish.
Yeah, me too.
Actually, my brother was just living in Hawaii, and I always wanted to visit him, but never was able to make it out there in time. And that's like Jurassic Park is a huge part of my life, so I would love to go out and see the Jurassic Park areas, but also the Lost beach in Oahu would be amazing to visit.
Yeah, I was Dave and I were planning our honeymoon. Of course, now we've had to postpone that, but we're going to Costa Rica, and I was so excited because I was like, we can go to the places where Jurassic Park was, but it takes place in Costa Rica, but it was actually filmed in Hawaii.
Yeah,
so
off the coast of Costa Rica, right? Or parts of it, I guess, take place in Costa Rica. So, anyways, fun piece of trivia is the first episode, when it originally aired on ABC, they actually didn't put any commercials in for the first half hour of the show.
Ooh.
So no commercial breaks. It just grabs you, and it worked. I mean, this show had
That's
a
awesome.
huge following from the get-go. I remember being in college when this show was airing, and everybody was talking about it. Like, everybody would get into each other's dorm rooms. Like, everyone would pile into one room, and everyone would just watch it. And I wasn't watching at the time because, like I said, I didn't catch up to it until a few years later when I could binge it. But as it was airing, I think it aired on, I don't know, I got to check my facts on this. But
I think it was ABC.
yeah,
At
I
least
know
that's
it was
what came
ABC,
up.
but I was going to say like Tuesday nights or whatever. But
Oh, yeah.
whenever it would air, everyone would just, it was Lost night. Like, people were so into
Yeah.
it. So
I definitely remember that happening too. I wasn't necessarily a part of any, like, none of my super close friends, I don't think were really watching Lost.
Yeah.
At least not, when I knew from the beginning, but I definitely remember that being a thing.
So yeah, basically they find the front of the plane the next morning. They venture out, they find the front of the plane, and this something, whatever it is, ends up coming back to the three characters who are inside the plane cockpit, which is sort of stuck in a tree or something. Mm-hmm. They find out the pilot's alive, and then the pilot gets eaten or something.
Oh, he gets gone.
He gets mangled, but then
He gets swiped right from the plane.
But then
I mean, like, that was one of those things where I'm like,
Yeah.
oh buddy, you're gone.
Yeah, bye bye.
What are you doing? Bye.
Yeah, he gets sucked right out the window.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's gone, and then doesn't the episode end with him in the tree? Isn't that the last? Is that the last shot?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it cuts
Yeah.
to the flying Lost logo. Yeah, this is how every Lost episode ends. Is here's one last
The
thing.
logo at
and
the end,
boom.
though, I was like,
Oh, it's kind of a
was not into
junky After Effects rendering logo.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do a better one for sure. Are you in? You're totally into this show?
I'm in
Yeah?
now. Yeah.
All right,
so,
cool.
Again, I had a lot of misconceptions about the show. I was just like, oh, great, another Survivor thing, whatever, big brother. I don't know what I thought it was. Like, I thought it was just like, I don't know. I don't know, but I definitely didn't have good thoughts about it.
Right.
I felt a little bit Game of Thronesy with all of the characters at the beginning, but
Lot of
not
characters,
so
lot of characters.
overwhelming, because like Game of Thrones throws all of this shit at you all at once, like all these different competing storylines in different places, which was very confusing. I mean, like I like once it was like the end of the first season, and like a couple of people died, I was like, okay, now I think I can finally understand.
And then they add more characters.
And then they add more characters
Yeah.
and they kill more characters. And by
Right.
the end, you're like, this is great. I can follow these
Yeah.
like, small number of people.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit nervous about that at first, but I think they do a really good job. And I don't know if Jack is always the main character. Like you don't have to tell me that, but
Yeah.
I think it could be interesting if he's not, if they follow different people. However, I think the way that it was done so far was really interesting, and that, like I was saying, you get to see these small glimpses of people. There's clearly like a couple that's sort of arguing, and the one girl is like, they're going to save us, it's going to be fine. And like, she's clearly a little bit delusional and not really doing anything. She like doesn't even want to eat the chocolate that I'm assuming it's like her boyfriend or her partner. That's sort of what it seemed like to me. He like didn't even want to eat the chocolate he was offering her.
God, I gotta bite
Then
my
you've
tongue
got-
so bad on this.
I know.
This is
Then
great.
you've got, I assume, again, it seems like a father-daughter, the like Asian man and young woman, and he's just like, stay with me, don't talk to anyone, just like, and he wouldn't let that. I think it was a guy who was like trying to get under like a piece of the plane or something that they were like sheltering under. He like wouldn't let them get under it. Right. And is like very, very like protective of this girl. Again, I'm just assuming it's a daughter, but could be wrong. And then you've got the woman who is sitting next to Jack on the plane, or like kind of across the aisle from him, who like kissed her wedding ring. So we're assuming her husband didn't make it because she had talked about how her husband was in the bathroom. And she's like upset about that, obviously. Then you see I don't think it was her. I can't remember. I don't think they showed her face, but there was like one girl like painting her toenails. Like it was no big deal. Yeah. Everything's going to be fine.
Right. Because I think a lot of these characters, they had no idea what to expect. They all they survive this crash. Right. And they're on the beach, and I think a lot of them are assuming that they're going to be rescued. Like, they know where the plane went down.
2004. Of course they're going to get rescued. This isn't like Gilligan's Island.
Exactly. But, as, they say in the episode, they're 1,000 miles off course. And, something went haywire where they might not get rescued. The black box stopped
working or something
something
a while
like
before.
That.
Yeah.
So they're sort of on their own in some unknown island.
Yeah. But of course, the trio, Kate, Charlie, and Jack haven't been, they have not gone back yet to relay this information to the rest of the 45 people. Right. The other 45. You said it was 48 people who survived?
It's 48 survivors. So the one thing I'll say about characters, you mentioned all the different characters and how it was like a Game of Thrones.
I'm like, girl, what are you doing flying that pregnant?
Yeah. Well, hey,
but
you got to get around.
A story.
She's got a story.
Maybe she's trying to get somewhere before she has her baby,
The characters in this show, I feel like they're so strong. Like, they're so well realized. They're so written well. They have these characteristics that are very unforgettable, and they feel like real people to me. Like Charlie, as you'll come to love and know, his story and his character is so interesting, and it's so multifaceted, along with most of these other characters as well. So like that's
why
I say
you're ruining it for me a little bit though by saying that, because one of the things that I wrote down was Charlie is my favorite so far. Yeah. But I feel like he's gonna bite it real early on, or he'll be on until the end because he's the comic relief. I could see it going either way.
I don't know. At this point, I feel like there's not much more we need to say about Lost. Yeah. Unless you have any other final thoughts. Do you have a favorite moment from the episode?
Well, I wrote down a couple more things. Why the fuck is the dog by itself? I don't like that. It makes me real uncomfortable. Dogs like to be around humans. So.
Yeah, where's he going to go? Where's he going to go? He's on an island. Where's he going to go?
He should be around humans. He's like by himself in the woods. I don't know. Also, can you call it woods? I feel like when it's all palm trees, it's like not woods. I don't know. It makes me feel weird to say woods.
Maybe not the woods. I think you call it the forest or the jungle.
The forest. The jungle. You're right. That makes a lot of sense. Geography, people.
Actually, I don't know if it's a full-on jungle, but maybe.
Yeah. Well, let's call it.
It's tropical. Tropical jungle.
Tropical jungle.
Yeah.
Usually jungle.
Tropa-jungle.
I'm not going to remember that.
Okay. Well, I just coined it.
I love when Charlie said there's a certain gargantuan quality about this thing. I think that was my favorite line.
Yeah.
But then my favorite moment of Lost is I think just the way it begins is brilliant. The sounds, the camera work, it's all very disorienting, and it I think just perfectly captures what our protagonist is going through, that feeling. Like I said, it just reminds me of like a war film, like a really well done war film. Do you have a favorite moment of Lost?
I mean, the whole episode is like my favorite moment. Like
you can't say that. I could say that about Buffy.
I know, but it's such a thrill ride. I love it from start to finish. I guess if I had to pick a favorite moment, I really like the plane crash flashback. I think that's so well done, and it gives you a glimpse of Jack's life.
I'm guessing he's an alcoholic.
Everything, I don't know. Everything is a mystery, and I think whenever we get a little piece of information, it's so rich because we're wondering, like, all these people are such mysteries. The story is such a mystery. Like, where is this going? What does it all mean? Whenever I get like a flashback and it's well executed and they only give you little pieces of information, I I eat it up. I love it. I think it's so well done. So I'm going to go with the plane crash as my favorite moment.
Well, okay, so if we were to pit these two episodes against each other,
Yeah.
which one wins?
So episode 1 of Lost versus episode 1 of Buffy. I mean, I feel like there's a clear winner here.
All right, so again, like I feel like Lost has a huge advantage just because it's newer and it looks way better. It starts with a bang. There's so many characters in dire straits, so it's hard not to want to keep watching to know what happens to them.
Right.
And what the fuck is in the trees, and why is the dog by itself? I don't
Right.
like it.
Right.
Listen.
Yeah.
Hold on.
This
I
is
have
a
a
segment
theory.
we can't do. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
You never see the dog and the creature in the same frame.
That's
okay?
a very, very interesting theory.
Is it the dog?
Maybe. Who's
I
to
can't
say?
handle it if it's the dog. I love dogs.
Yeah, it could be the dog. Who knows? Who
So
knows?
if I were watching both of these for the first time and could only keep watching one,
Yeah.
it's tough because again, like
It's
I
Lost.
was obsessed with vampires, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
my
yeah.
instinct is to say that I'd want to keep watching Buffy,
Right.
but I feel like we already know some of the Lost characters better than
Yeah.
the Buffy characters. So I feel like I'm, except for maybe Buffy herself.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm more invested in them, and I need to know what happens to them. So I gotta go Lost, but I just don't want Lost to win every time just because it has amazing endings.
It won't. It's not going to
and-
win every time because these episodes are going to, once we get into the story of Buffy, I feel like there's going to be some episodes that will stand alone as truly great episodes. That's my prediction.
Just wait.
There you go. So, but that being said, Lost will also swing back the other way. The pilot is incredible. It's one of the best pilots ever made. So it starts very high, but as we go on, there's a lot of show to fill. They have a lot of episodes, and
you can't keep that momentum.
You can't. Not always.
and I think that's the kind of interesting thing about Buffy is that it doesn't really start with a bang.
Right.
So I mean, like it obviously, like you want to have a pretty, you need to have a powerful first episode, right? Because you want to.
They have a good
people
show,
into it.
like a cold open. The first scene in the school hallways with the girl and the guy, Darla. I think that is a great way to grab your audiences.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess like that would be.
It's no plane crash. I will say that.
You can't.
It's no plane crash in
no
Oahu.
Plane crash.
Yeah.
And like, the guy getting sucked into the. Woo! I was like,
yeah.
That felt very Titanic when the guy like when the boat is like up and like some guy falls off the back end into the propeller in Titanic.
Yeah.
Come on, that's like iconic. And everyone's like, ooh, like there's just a collective, like I remember seeing in the movie theaters multiple times.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, ugh.
Right.
Like
yeah.
it's like that felt. It's a very visceral.
Lost has a little bit of something for everybody. You know what? I'm going to stop right there. I'm not going to say anything more about what it has, but it has a little bit of something for everybody.
Yeah, and I will say, I'm trying to like separate out the like not mystical, but like whatever horror sci-fi thing, like whatever the thing is that's lurking in the jungle.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking, because I will tell you, like after we talked about, before watching it, but after we recorded the intro, I was telling a friend that we're going to be doing this podcast. I'm going to be watching Lost. I'd never seen it before. I was like, do not say anything. Because he was like, oh God, Lost is amazing. And I was like, don't say anything to me. He was like, how could you have never seen it? And I kind of said the same thing. I was like, well, I just had all of these misconceptions about it. And he was like, you're going to love it. He was like, there is like some elements of, I don't think he said horror, but he said something like that. And I was like, okay, like that makes me more intrigued. So, but I think even if that wasn't, I don't know. I'm curious, like if there wasn't that element to it, if I would want to keep watching, because I feel like I still want to know what these characters' backstory is. But that thing lurking in the jungle is menacing, so it makes it more it just makes like, okay, not only do they have to get off of this island or get found or whatever, but now there's something lurking in the jungle that's trying to kill them.
This is something that J.J. Abrams is really, really good at. And I think there's a TED Talk that I've heard about that he gives that's called something like the Mystery Box or something.
Yeah.
Or he talks about the Mystery Box. I'm going to have to edit this after I find out the real story of this. But basically, he talks about this idea of always having this sort of mystery that you're trying to unravel. You're trying to find out more. Like if you have that mystery placed somewhere in the piece of story that you're creating, people will just keep prying away at it, or they'll stay fix their attention to it because they got to know what this one little thing is.
You have to be. You got to figure it out. You got to know.
He created Cloverfield. Somebody else directed it.
But I know a lot of people are obsessed with that.
Yeah, and this was like after Lost had become successful. He produced this film, Cloverfield, and they didn't release any trailers. They released one teaser, and they didn't even say what the movie was about in the teaser. It was basically just like a scene.
That's my kind of thing, because I hate like trailers give so much away.
Right.
Like I never want to watch a trailer.
Right. So he's very good at hooking the audience and getting them invested in the story by creating these mysteries. And this is just one of the mysteries that maybe will happen in this show. So I'm happy that we're off to a great start.
Yes.
On this
and
podcast.
Let's make predictions.
Okay.
About what we think. So obviously you should predict. What do you think is going to happen next on Buffy?
Okay. I think...
Could be long-term or just...
I think the cops are in on it. They're part of the Hellmouth vampire squad. And I think...
I mean, that seems relevant today.
So,
what do you think?
Next episode, Buffy's going to get out of her little pickle that she's in. She's in a sarcophagus. Sarcophagus? Coffin? She's in... Okay.
Yeah.
This guy's jumping on her. Like, she's going to do a little... She's going to do a little kick and then a roundhouse and then... Hold on, let me rephrase that. She's going to do a kick and then a roundhouse.
Oh, yeah, you can't say little kick.
I'm not going to say little kick.
Because she's a little girl.
I knew that was going to come up. Okay, so she did... she's going to do a kick.
She's going to do a big kick.
Big kick, big roundhouse,
kick.
And then she's going to do a huge flip, and then she's going to flip the guy out the window, something like that, and then she's going to have some little quip like, that's how you mess around with a girl who knows what she's doing. Something like that, okay? So that's next episode. Other than that, I really don't know where this is going to go, other than she's going to bust a bunch of vampires. Oh, the king vampire, the guy who sort of looks like Voldemort. I called him the master dude. Yeah, he's waking up, so he's obviously looking for some fresh blood so he can get stronger.
He's looking for a good time.
So eventually, maybe at the end of this first season, maybe he's going to be like a monster foe of hers that she's going to have to face down at some point. And maybe that'll be the season finale. That's my prediction.
Okay.
Okay, what's your prediction, other than the dog being the monster thing?
My prediction is on Lost, we will find out that the dog is the demon.
Okay.
And the baby will be born just in time to be sacrificed to the dog demon.
Oh my God. Wow. Okay. Maybe. Yeah.
Listen, I've seen a lot of horror stuff in my day. Also, we recently watched Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I hated that movie.
You did?
Yeah, I thought that I loved it when I don't know, when we went into watching it, and then this time around, I was just like, I couldn't with that movie.
I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was like, it's hard, like, enjoy is not the word, but it is the word. Like, I really enjoy it, but as a movie, like, it's harrowing, and it's so tough to watch. Yeah.
So, on that note,
yes.
Like, before we sign off officially, what else are you reading, watching, and listening to?
Reading a whole bunch of do-it-yourself guides to building a bathroom. So drywall books, plumbing and wiring books. Also,
sounds very dry.
Also, I am watching films whenever I can. So we watched Clueless, like I talked about earlier. We rewatched.
I just can't picture. I can't picture that. I love it.
I know. Well, I actually really, enjoy catching up with a lot of these films I hadn't seen from the 90s and things, and even like romantic comedies and stuff, because like my wife and I, it's sort of common ground for us. So we're trying to always find something that's light and fun at night to sort of relax and just chill out to. So unless it's like a hardcore movie we have to watch for movie club, this is usually a way to do some palate cleansing. We'll watch something like Clueless. Yeah. So,
sorry, that's my dog sneezing.
Oh, okay. And then we watched Fight Club, as did you.
Yes.
This past week. So, what about you? What have you been into?
I have been reading. I usually read like 3 or 4 books at the same time and just switch between them depending on my mood. But
that's what I do too, but I never finish them.
I do finish them.
Yeah,
it just takes me a little bit longer. But it depends. Like, if I have one good day on a beach or something, then I can, blast through one. But so I'm reading So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo, which is a really great book on, whether you're black, white, whatever. It's just a really good book on how to have these conversations and also how to have them, like, not just say, oh, that's racist and move on, but like also be able to talk about, like a historical context of why that is a problematic statement and what the results could be from that statement.
Cool.
My fiction read is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. It's a trilogy. There might be 4 of them. But I have a friend who's been trying to get me to read these books forever. It's about like fairies and a human, and right up my alley. So
fun.
I'm reading those. Watching Cursed, which is a Netflix series. I don't know if you've seen that advertised at all.
I saw it advertised as #1 trending, so it's very popular.
Yes, it's so into it. It's a retelling of Arthur from the lens of Nimue, who is the Lady of the Lake. She plays a badass fucking fairy. And it's based on a comic by Thomas Wheeler, which is illustrated by Frank Miller. And they have like those like graphic elements in the show. It's really well done.
Yeah.
I love Frank Miller. He does Sin City.
He also did 300,
and 300.
Yep.
I know. And then I'm listening to Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. Thanks to you, Pat, for like telling me forever that I need to listen to it. I don't watch them like in sequence, really. I usually just kind of jump around to whatever I want to listen.
Yeah,
I just finished the spin-off, Monica and Jess Love Boys.
Oh, I haven't tried that one yet.
It's really good. I mean, it's
I
obviously
love Monica.
very,
she's great.
Yeah, and it's obviously very different, but it's great because it's like, it's Monica and Jess facing their vulnerabilities in regards to love and relationships. So, and it's like, it's something that like I felt listening to it. I was like, oh yeah, me too. Oh yeah. And like, that's kind of like at the end, they're sort of like, we realize that everybody deals with this shit. Like we're not unique. And so that's really good. And then today I listened to the regular episode with Ibram X. Kendi, who wrote How to Be an Anti-Racist.
Yeah.
That was a great interview. And then I also listened to, while I was picking up trash on the beach, listened to the Bradley Whitford episode, which was also great.
I listened to that
him.
one. That was good.
So.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. So cool. So should we tell our listeners where they can contact us if they want to send in any thoughts about the episodes that they are rewatching, as far as, let's not skip ahead, but for episode 1, if you have thoughts that you want to send in, you can email us
no spoilers, please.
No, please.
That's
because
messed up.
Yeah, we're trying to experience this for the first time for each show. So
yeah, I think we should tell people where to find us.
What's the email address? Is it kickstreampod@gmail.com?
kickstreampod@gmail.com.
Yeah, email us there if you have any thoughts or concerns.
Or corrections.
Corrections. I'm sure we screwed many things up.
Probably. But, also keep in mind, these are just our opinions on these shows.
We're just people.
We're just people.
Like you. We'll see you for next episode of Kicking and Streaming, episode 2 for Lost and Buffy.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at KickstreamPod. Our website is kickingstreaming.com, and you can email us kickstreampod@gmail.com.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Always remember that streaming is better with friends. Bye.
Bye.